Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. This video is going to be pre-recorded well in advance. I think this is coming out on, I want to say the 15th, and it is currently the 10th that this is being recorded because I'm going away, and you will start to see all of my AFL fantasy pre-season content starting to roll out. I have 2 weeks away on holiday, and I will be uploading all of my videos for all of the team previews. So first up is the Adelaide Crows, and yeah, it's just intriguing to get started with this all, I guess, in a way. So let's just jump into it. I think there's about 7 or 8 players highlighted per side in general heading into this season, but we will go through positions by position and just go through every player and sort of highlight the main ones that I've got. There may be some guys that are slightly out of order, etc., but it's only by 1 or 2, as usually there's only 1 or 2 players per position that I go into depth with. But anyway, let's just jump into this video here. As you can see here, I have the players that as the player positions document that we got, and I'll just go through and sort of run over or just quickly go over the players that I don't really go into much depth and sort of go into more depth on the guys that I've written up reviews for. So Hinge, I don't think he has much upside. Worrell, no. McElhaney, no. And Luke Nankervis, I don't think I had anything on any of those guys. No, it was the min-price defenders that I did have stuff up for. Brodie Smith, no. I think he might even get taken out of the side. Mark Keane, no. Another guy, no. Wayne Miller, we fall into this trap every year, so no from him. Borlath, no. Nick Murray, no. Butts, no. Bond, I did look into just slightly. If we just go into the player summary and go into Bond a little bit, Hugh Bond. It was a guy that I looked into slightly, but I didn't like I don't think I liked his Sandful numbers, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just looking at this just off the top of my head, or even just live looking at this with you guys, I can tell you I don't like the sample numbers here. Anyway, you can see that there, 12 games, 46, don't like it. So we move on from him and we go down to a lot of the rookies were actually the guys that I was interested in. Charlie Edwards, a guy that I wrote up some numbers for, and he will be basement price. Now, with a couple of these guys, I'm pretty sure I have the magic number right because that came out mid sort of doing the research for this. I was about 8 or 9 teams in when the magic number dropped, when we started to get some pricing, and my models show, or my pricing magic number shows that it should be right on. The magic number should be 10,250. But it might be off by 1 or 2k. But I know that Charlie Edwards will be basement, which they said is 230, which should indicate about a break even of 22 or so. And yeah, so he played in 2023, 12 games, 66 average, 9.3 kicks per game, 7.8 handballs, 3.3 marks, 2.8 tackles. And then in the sample in 2024, Charlie Edwards, 18 games, 66.9 average, 9.5 kicks, 6 tackles, 6 handballs, 3.7 marks and tackles. And he was selected 21st in the 2023 national draft, bigger body mid at 191 centimeters. Low job security given the drafting of Sid Draper. If we just go over to Charlie Edwards here, you'll see that his kicking running capacity, so he could play off half back. I'm just intrigued to see where he does play in the end, if he does actually end up playing. If we go over here to Charlie Edwards, here I don't know where he necessarily was positioned in the Sandful, whether or not it was off half back or whether or not it was in the middle. That would be an interesting thing to look at. But I have a feeling, given the fact that he averaged 3.7 tackles a game as well as 3.7 marks, given that those are very close, I would hazard a guess that he was playing in the midfield. Therefore, I don't think with Sid Draper into the club, I don't think he necessarily, and also James Peatling, I don't think he necessarily has the best job security. And so he might be a guy that we're just waiting on, but his sample numbers do sort of suggest that he can do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does take another second-year leap in the sample and average 80 or so next year in the sample. But I just don't know if he gets time in the AFL. But definitely a guy, if he does get into the because he has defender status, definitely a guy that if he does get named, you should be looking at. Oscar Ryan, another 230k basement priced guy that we've seen. If I just bring up his stats here for you guys, or at least the game log for you guys, I can tell you that he played 2 years in the Coates League, 22 and 23. In his most senior year in the Coates League, 10 games, 84 average, 15 kicks, 7 handballs, 5.2 marks, 4.2 tackles, which is really, really good. And it sounds like he's an aggressive rebounding defender. And could be useful in 2025 as Adelaide are looking to speed up. I think their midfield especially is really, really slow, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see Adelaide decide to speed up a little bit. And the only problem with him is just doubtful job security, but he did average 73.3 points per game in the sample in 2024 off of 13 kicks, like 6 handballs or so, and 4 marks. So yeah, he's a guy that, again, very similar to Charlie Edwards, just basement price, and we'll just have to see how they go in the end. But yeah, if I just quickly scroll down to those people wondering on YouTube about this, you'll see here that he's had a couple of good games, a 106 max game, but a couple of games in the 90s, 80s and 70s, etc. And only really one poor game. If you remove that poor game out of it, the 35 that he had, I'm sure that this would jump up to probably 78 or so. I mean, he had a 51 and a 64 as well, aside that, and a 48. So he's had some poor games, and it goes up to only, 75.7. But yeah, I'm not too worried about him, and I don't think he's going to necessarily play, but a guy that I've just sort of flagged here as there's not many others for Adelaide, to be honest with you. Onto the midfield for Adelaide, and the recruit that they got in the trade period would be James Peatling, a guy that if we look at he's going to be priced at, I believe, 56, which comes in at 574k, I believe. I'm pretty sure that number is right. If you look at his year by year, you'll actually see, which is, I've actually got that wrong, sorry. That's Isaac Cumming that we're looking at, not James Peatling. Isaac Cumming, another Giant, sorry. Cumming would be the right last name there. Isaac Cumming, priced at 56, 574k. If we look at his 2021 numbers, 86.1 fancy average from 24 games, 2022, 90.6 from 21 games, and then in 2023, he averaged 68. And you saw quite a large decrease in his kick-ins, and play-on percentage still held out, but his kick-ins went from 140 and 129 in 21 and 22 respectively, down to 56, and then down to 1 in 2024 from the 6 games. So you can see that he went in from averaging about 6 kick-ins per game down to about 3 or 2.5, and that 2.8, sorry, and that takes away 10 points, just free 10 points. And you can see that his kicks went from, for those that have you can actually access this document, it'll be live you'll find a link somewhere. It'll probably be in the description as well, if you want to follow along. Kicks went from 15.5 and 18 in 21 and 22 down to just 11.5 in 2023, and then 7.7 in 2024. You can see that sharp drop off sort of showed that he was out of that build-up play, I would say, for the Giants. And I think for Adelaide, especially with their lack of ball use out from the half-back line, like their best ball user is almost like Luke Nankervis. I can almost actually look this up for you just to show you how poor I feel like Adelaide's ball use out back, from the back line is. If we just go to Adelaide here and we go to kicking efficiency, where is it? Kick percentage, kick efficiency for Adelaide. You've got Butts, Worrell, Miller, Borley, all these other guys here. But if we go to, if we just get rid of that, you'll see. I just don't think. Let me get the games up to like 6 games. Honestly, there you go. You'll see that they don't have Will Hamill's just in the top 20. But if I actually increase this to 10 games for like more known quantities, you'll see you've got Josh Worrell there. That's one guy. And then not too many other guys sitting there for Adelaide. Borlass there. But you don't really actually have a distributor there for Adelaide. So that's my big thing about Adelaide. And I think that they could really use a distributor. Whereas you've got other guys. Like, look at this. Luke Ryan, I know he doesn't do too much. Even Matty Roberts sitting there. Lawson Humphreys, these guys. Who else? Just thinking of other guys that kick. Mason Redmond at 81, Kane Farrell, Dan Houston, Lockie Whitfield, etc. There's many guys there. There's probably 10 or so rebounding defenders, and then you start to get down to like the Jordan Clark, etc., and all those other guys there that are all ahead of all of Adelaide's distributors. So I think that they need one, and that is Isaac Cumming. So if we look at Isaac Cumming, you can see all the stats here that I just sort of brought up to you guys. And you can see if you actually remove, I think, an injury game, that average actually, he has 2 injury games. If you just, that's 2023, sorry. If you remove the injury game that he had in 2024, he goes straight up to a 71. So you're getting a 15-point upside plus a better roll. So I wouldn't be surprised if Isaac Cumming goes 80-85, which could be interesting. But is that enough value is the big question. Is like, there is like that 25 to 30 enough, or do you want to really hunt for that 35, 40, 45 point value there? Peatling, another guy, a midfield only, and I think this guy is definitely an interesting case this year, as he went and played in 2023 10 games for a 48 with no CBAs, and then 19 games in 2024 for a 64 average with 42% CBAs. And if we actually look at the above 50% CBAs, if we just go through here and click through all of that, that's 2024 still, that's 2024 still. There you go. When he had over 50% CBAs, he averaged 92.2, which I think that's one of the reasons why he moved to Adelaide for more midfield time. And I think he can complement their midfield very well, as he's generally a lot quicker than a lot of them. Him and Draper should speed up that midfield quite a lot, and it'll help them also get out of the likes of the handball heavy Rory Laird, Matt Crouch, etc. I know Jordan Dawson is he's much more slow, but if you get to a more kick-centric midfield, you start to become with guys that are damaging kicks alongside guys that are agile. If you can still maintain that high tackle base, which I think James Peatling can do alongside Jordan Dawson, who averages 6 a game, I think you can really maintain a really good balance, and I think that just starts to become a really damaging midfield. Strong tackler when given on the on-ball role, and if you look at last year, he had, I think, a couple of poor games. He had a really poor game when he was, I think, tagging in one of the games, a 33 fantasy score from 58% CBAs. If you even just remove that from the stat that I was just saying, he goes up to almost 100. So if he's a non-tagging main CBA player, he suddenly goes up to a 100, which is kind of crazy. I think he's a guy that could present ultra value, being priced at 64. Can he jump and be a 95 or so? Or can he jump and be a low 90s guy? Especially on the non-buy, this guy, I think one of Cumming or Peatling will probably end up in my squad. I just don't know which one. To be honest. Then we move to Jordan Dawson, a guy that has been very, if I just quickly get him up here, a guy that's gone very high and then has some awful lows. If we look at it, he's got a max of 172 in 2023, a max of 155 in 2024. He's got 9 120 scores and 7 120 scores in 23 and 24 respectively. And he averaged 113 in 2023. But is priced at 105, which is roughly 1.08 million, give or take a little bit. And he's a guy that I think with the quicker midfield actually should help him out a lot. And I know a lot of people are saying he shouldn't be a midfielder, he should be this, he should be that. But if we actually look at his CBAs, if we look at his above 50% CBA games, just quickly here, bring it all up there, and there. He averages 110 when he gets plus 50% CBAs. If you raise that bar to 60, I wouldn't be surprised if there is probably negative movement actually just looking at this. Oh no, positive movement upwards, yeah. That raises to 9. When he gets over 60% plus CBAs, that goes up to a 116. So when he is played on ball, he does well. Simply put. He also has an injury game that you can see here, 81 in 61% time on ground, that he missed a game after it for. So I think and then we can extend this theory back to, I think, last season as well, in 2023, when he did average 114 or so. When he went, looking at it, just all his big games here, when he had over 60% CBAs, Let's just go through and roll this through there. There you go. He averaged, in the last 2 years when he's had above 60% CBAs, Jordan Dawson has averaged 116. If we expect one of Rory Laird, if not both of Rory Laird and Matt Crouch to move out of that midfield, then he could be ultra value. He could be the top, he could go from in the mix to top scoring midfield, like top scoring player in the comp, just like that, just because they move out Crouch and Laird. And yeah, he dropped 8 average, partially because he just got moved out of the midfield. When he goes sub, say even 50% midfield time in 2024, let's just go sub 50% midfield time. I think that's all of them. He averages 91. Remove the injury game because it's an injury game. You get 5 games for 93. That's an all right sample size to already show you that he's not going to do much, and I would suggest it's probably about 95 if you scale up the injury game to about a 105. So it's really shown that if he's out of the midfield, he really does struggle to score, or it's about 25 point different. It's about 20 point differential, I would say, when he's out of that midfield. So yeah, my notes are basically based around the just watching in case both Laird and Crouch are moved out of the midfield. Then we talk about Laird. I think this one is almost just to highlight Laird rather than, because he's a non-buy, early buy player, he can sort of come into the conversations. But if we look at Laird and for the role that we sort of expect Laird to play next year, when we go, let's just go sub 50% because I think that will show what we're trying to portray here. 48. Is that all we'll do last 2 years, even though I don't think he has too many in 2023 when this happened. Nope, doesn't look like it. Then we can go back to 2022. So in 8 games in this role, he averaged 92.8. So I think he's a guy that we watch. And if he gets defender status, then we jump on him. But not at this point, I don't think. Given that he was a fancy pig in 2022 and 23 because of the high tackles. His tackles went from 8.1 and 8 in 22 and 23 down to 5.7 as his CBAs went from 78 and 79% down to 50%. So that just shows almost a correlation there. But yeah, as I've written down here, handball happy nature with Matt Crouch in the midfield. They're just slow and non-damaging. Like to the point that they could probably have another 5 or 10 clearances than the Sydney Swans, and I'd still back the Sydney Swans to whack them by 8-9 goals just because they'd have another 2 or 3 goals from clearances on top of the Crows, even though the Crows would win the clearance count. So that's just sort of how I view the Adelaide midfield, and I think it may take some points away from the midfield spread, per se, in that you're taking Laird and Crouch, who average about, 210 between them, and you're replacing it with Sid Draper, Pete Ling, and guys like that who probably average about 180 or so. So that might hand 5-10 points back to the likes of Jordan Dawson, but it probably means that there's more spread, some actually in the back half towards Isaac Cumming, as well as Rory Laird's points go back there as well. So you see that sort of evenness, it evens out, but it's more spread around the ground rather than just 3 100-point scorers in the midfield. Sid Draper, 32.3, he's going to be priced at an average and priced at 331k. If you look at his under 18s in 2023, 4 games, 88 average, 12 kicks, 12.8 handballs, 3.5 marks, 3.8 tackles. Samford 2024, 6 games, 86 average, 10 kicks, 12 handballs, 2 marks, 6 tackles. And 2024 under 18s, 4 games, 63, 7 kicks, 14 handballs, 2.8 marks and 1.3 tackles. Yes, he is more handball happy than kicks. It seems like a little bit, but I'm pretty sure he's also had some injury issues as well. But I think one thing that's just huge between him and like a Laird is that huge ability just to be agile and quick. And I don't think he will be as handball happy as Laird. I think he'll take the game on a little bit more. And I don't think he's going to play full on ball. I don't expect him to average 100. We never do that. I think he plays sort of 40-45% CBAs, and that sort of gets him around that 75-80 marker. We've seen that with Ashcroft. We've seen it with other guys that play that midfield role. He may burn out a little bit more, but and especially it could be important because we do need to spend more money in the forward line, it looks like, this year. But yeah, he looks one of the best guys. He looks one of the best pure midfield scorers out of the draft class this year, as we do have quite a few guys that are probably going to take a little bit more time A lot of tools early, as well as the fact that we do have quite a few halfbacks actually this year and small forwards that went early. Then we skip the ruck line because Adelaide don't basically play a ruck anymore. Then we get to the last, I think, 3 guys here in Isaac Rankin, Zach Taylor, and Daniel Curtin. Isaac Rankin, if we bring him up here quickly, Rankin here, you'll see that he had a spurt on ball. And that spurt on ball, he scored pretty well, I'm pretty sure. Let's just look at it. If we go plus 40% CBAs, there we go. That's all his CBA games, 93.6. If we go plus 30% CBAs, or 30% or more CBAs, you'll see it goes down to 88. There was, and then so he has other things as well. But I don't mind it. I don't mind it as much. I feel like he's one of the guys that we thought he would be a lot of value early on, but it turns out probably not, especially with the acquisition of the likes of Peatling and also drafting the home guy in Sid Draper that we just talked about. I just don't see him being too much value. In 2022, he averaged, and this was his last year at Gold Coast, he averaged 59 from 18 games. 2023, he averaged 74 from 20 games with 2% midfield time. And then in 2024, he averaged 79.8 from 15 games with 38% on ball time. I just don't think he gets too much more on ball time, to be honest with you. And his adjusted season average without injuries is 82.1, so not much value. He would need to be given a full-time mid-roll to get into the 90s, I feel like. And I just don't know if that's necessarily possible, especially with all the other value in the forward line, with a lot of guys that are priced like in the 50s and 60s that are going to go definitely in the 80s, 90s. So I just don't think you can go with the ranking given all the value we'll talk about in other team previews. Zach Taylor, 41.6 average that he's going to be priced at, and 426k give or take. I think, if my numbers are correct, he's one of the ones that's awkward because he has like a discount, etc. But if you look at this 2024 sample, 9 games, 74.1. So there is that, and that was something I sort of hunted for in these guys, is looking for guys that are realistic enough to play, but also have 30 points of upside. So from their late twos performance. So priced at 41.6, gave out an output of 74.1 in the sample. I think that there is some value there, but we just, if you remove his sub games as well, you'll see here that he actually averages 73.3. So this is also a guy that I sort of looked at because of that reason, that there was a lot of sub games. So can he actually get a run in the side for Adelaide? If you add this 63%er as well, it still is 66. So there is, I think, a lot of value there. But the problem is, like I said, we're going to go heavy on the forward line. So I just don't see Zach Taylor being that much value, to be honest with you. Then we get to the last guy on this whole, list here. And I know that I've sort of skipped over a lot of guys here. So we will just quickly go through. All these guys here talked about sort of Matt Crouch and Rory Laird in tandem. Scholl, no. Soligo, I don't think gets it too much. Billy Dowling is just too high price that he'd need to average almost 100. Peatling we talked about. Cummins we talked about. Chase Jones is no from me. Sam Berry, I just don't see him getting into that midfield mix. Sid Draper we talked about. Riley O'Brien, Strachan. Talked about Rankin. Neil Bullen comes across, but don't think there's much value there. Keys, don't think there's a role change there for him. But Keys could be one that we get in the preseason that we get a role change. But I think he's a good actual half forward. Rochelle, don't think he gets a role change. Taylor Walker's a key. Darcy Fogarty, no. Murphy, don't even know why he's playing. Burgess, no. Zach Taylor, we talked about. Harry Schellenberg, Braden Cook, no. Daniel Curtin, and this is the last guy. A guy that was sort of talked up about as a key defender, given his 197cm height. But a guy that has played midfield in the under-18s, I believe, last year in 2023 in the national champs. 4 games, 101 fantasy average, 15.5 kicks, 8 handballs, 6.5 marks, 4.3 tackles. Then in the sample in 2024, 12 games, 78.3 average. If you actually look at his last 3 games before injury, Daniel Curtin, if that's got Zach Taylor on it, so let's go to Daniel Curtin. If you look at Daniel Curtin's last 3 games before injury in the sample, I'm pretty sure they were all lined up in the midfield here, and you see this number here. That's what we were looking at pre, I think these were all midfield time games. Look at the tackles, those look like midfield time games. If not, these three at least were. So yeah, average of about 90 in the midfield in the SANFL, which is really, really good to see, given that he's priced at 29.2, which should come in around about that 299k range, which is a good price for an on-bench forward with no buy, and he could get midfield time. It's just the problem is he best 22. If he's best 23, that's not good enough, given the sub role can ruin players. And yeah, he's just one of the few cheap forwards heading into the 2025 fantasy season, mostly due to the fantasy prospects in 2024 draft class being all mids or mid-onlys. Could be a rookie prize, second-year player that's undervalued. Yep. Given he had the key defender role for a lot of his time, and injuries or sub-outs, and the red, so both the green and the red vest in 2024. And you can see that if I just quickly go this, even though I've run the numbers, if you go here and you look at that, 3 games, 53 average when he wasn't a sub, and that was in a half-back, half-forward role, I think, or maybe a half-forward role, with some CBAs there. You can see CBAs averaging 63 in one game. I think he can average, or could easily go, plus 45 or plus 50 on his starting price. That would get him up to, a 75 or an 80? 75, 80 for Dan Curtin. That would be mass value. That would be somewhere close to about 400, 500k of value, which is absolutely huge. That is basically getting a rookie price player almost up to a premium in that midfield. So you combine Curtin and a 2024 mid-rookie, and you get up to a primo once they've sat their buy. Early buy, especially because there's a lot of those guys. And that's sort of how I'm looking at it for Curtin. And that's pretty much it for the Adelaide Crows now. A little bit longer than I probably wanted this video to go. I wanted it to sit around that 20 minutes, but I maybe just took a little bit longer to get into the video. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video there. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on, because there will be daily releases at 12 p.m, I believe, for these team fantasy previews on both YouTube and on Spotify. So if you are listening on there, give me a follow and a rating on there so that you will know that I do release at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time each day for pretty much up until New Year's, I think it is, and maybe a couple of days into 2025 for these fantasy previews. I hope to get them out first before everyone else. But anyway, that is the video there, and I'll see you guys in the next preview tomorrow, or tomorrow for you guys. That'll be the Brisbane Lions. Bye, guys.